All right, let's talk about an absolute legend in the world of advertising. A guy who didn't just sell soap or glue. No, he gave a nation of over 1 billion people its own voice. We're diving into the story of the one, the only, Piyush Pandey. So, how on earth did he pull it off? Well, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll set the scene. What was advertising like before him? Then we'll get into his Desi revolution, check out some of his most iconic stories, not just ads, and finally see how he literally shaped a nation's culture. Okay, so let's get right into it. Who is Piyush Pandey? You can think of him as the chief storyteller for modern India's consumer culture. But, calling him just an ad man doesn't even begin to cover it. This is the guy who taught an entire industry, and pretty much the whole country, to believe in its own voice, to find the magic in its own everyday stories. And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. See, before Pandey came along, Indian advertising was it was a pretty exclusive club, super elitist, trying way too hard to sound and look Western. Piyush Pandey, he didn't just knock on that door. He kicked it clean off its hinges and basically said, everyone's invited. Now, to really get why Pandey was such a big deal, you've got to understand the world he walked into. Picture this. It's the early 80s in India. The ad industry, it's basically a carbon copy of Madison Avenue. The language is all super polished English. It feels really distant, and honestly, it was completely out of touch with how most Indians actually lived and spoke. Yeah, and this breakdown right here shows you the before and after perfectly. On one side, you've got these ads speaking this high-level, perfect English to maybe, the top 5% of the country? And then Pandey comes in and just flips the whole script. He starts using colloquial, Desi language, authentically Indian stuff, and homegrown ideas. And suddenly, he's speaking to the other 95%. So you have to ask, where did this game-changing perspective even come from? Was it some fancy business school, a high-powered marketing course? Nope. It came from the cricket pitch and from long, crowded journeys on Indian trains.
See, Piyush Pandey was not your typical ad guy at all. He grew up in Jaipur in a family of artists. He played pro-level cricket and he spent a huge chunk of his youth just traveling all over the country. So he wasn't looking at India through spreadsheets and data points. No, he was looking at it through a train window, actually listening to people, figuring out what made him tick, what made him laugh.
And that right there, that was his whole philosophy. He was convinced that the best ideas don't come from a sterile boardroom or some focus group. They come from real chats with real people on the street. And that genuine, deep understanding of the Indian pulse, that became his creative superpower. This is where his genius really shines. He wasn't throwing out the rulebook entirely. He took the core concept of great advertising, what his own agency's founder, David Ogilvy, called the big idea, and he gave it an Indian soul. He showed everyone that using local languages and homegrown humor wasn't a compromise. Actually, it was a source of incredible power. Okay, so the proof is in the work, right? The reason Pandey's campaigns are literally burned into India's cultural memory is because he knew this one simple thing, and he said it all the time. I don't write ads, I tell stories. And man, the stories he told, they were unforgettable. Let's look at a few. First up, Fevicol. Think about it. How do you make glue exciting? It's a tough brief, but Pandey's solution was just brilliant. He realized you don't sell the adhesive, you sell the idea of an unbreakable bond. And the genius of it was how he did it. He used this hilarious, relatable, very Indian, often rural-based comedy. Suddenly, Fevicol wasn't just glue, it was a metaphor for any strong connection. And the slogan, "Ye Fevicol ka jod hai, tutega nahi," which means, this is a Fevicol bond, it won't break, it literally became a part of the national language. People still say it today. All right, next up, Cadbury. Now, before Pandey got his hands on it, chocolate in India was pretty much just for kids. He completely blew that idea out of the water with one single iconic ad that was all about pure, unfiltered joy. You know the one I'm talking about. The girl dancing like nobody's watching right onto the cricket pitch after her guy hits the winning run. It was absolutely revolutionary. It wasn't polished or glamorous. It was just a moment of pure, authentic, Desi celebration. It basically gave an entire generation of adults permission to enjoy chocolate, and it made Cadbury the official sponsor of happiness. But here's the thing. His impact went way beyond just selling stuff. His knack for tapping into the heart of India was so profound that he ended up influencing huge public health initiatives, national unity campaigns, and yeah, even major political elections. And this might be his most important work ever. For the national polio vaccination drive, he came up with the line, "Dole boon zindagi ke," just 2 words, meaning 2 drops of life. By framing it that way, it wasn't a government order anymore. It was this deeply personal, emotional plea. And it helped mobilize an entire nation to wipe out polio. Incredible. He also wrote the lyrics for one of the most beloved songs about national unity ever made in India, Mile Sur Mera Tumhara. It means when my tune and your tune merge. It became this unofficial national anthem, a beautiful piece of art that still gives people goosebumps and reminds them of the country's incredible diversity. Then, in 2014, that same talent for simple, powerful messaging was applied to politics. He was the mind behind the monster slogan for the BJP's campaign, Abki Baar Modi Sarkar, which simply means, this time, a Modi government. Now, whatever your politics are, if you look at this purely from a communication standpoint, it was a work of genius. It's short, it's catchy, it's rhythmic. It uses everyday language. It didn't sound like propaganda. It sounded like a confident promise. And it just sliced through all the political noise like a hot knife through butter. So, when you step back and look at the whole picture, what is Piyush Pandey's real legacy? I mean, it's way more than just a highlight reel of famous commercials. It's a deep, fundamental shift in the entire country's creative mindset. At the end of the day, Piyush Pandey didn't just build brands, he built India's creative confidence. This is the guy who became the first ad professional to get the Padma Shri, one of India's highest civilian awards, the first Asian ever to win advertising's top lifetime honor at Cannes. He proved to a whole generation of writers, artists, and filmmakers that the best ideas don't have to be imported. They're right there in our own streets, in our own homes. He, more than anyone, made common the new cool. And that really leaves us with a final thought, a question that kind of sums up his entire life's work. He taught an entire country to look inward, to find something amazing in the everyday. So the real question his legacy asks all of us is this: what stories, right from our own backyards, are we just waiting to tell?